Do you want ideas for working with your Spellbinders 2023 card kit of the month, or really any card kit that uses 6x6 paper? Hi, I'm Jess from jesscrafts.com, and I'm here to help you make the most of your crafty supplies and time. So let's get making. Today, my goal is to make at least 15 cards, and I picked that for a specific reason, but to make 15 cards with this card kit without pulling in anything additional except my paper trimmer. I guess an adhesive. There is adhesive in the kit, and I guess I will try to use the adhesive that comes in the kit. I don't know if I will run out, but just use the kit and a trimmer and not even extra cardstock or anything like that, just so you can show you really how complete these kits are. So I have picked two of my paper busting templates, and these are for 6x6 paper. So it means that I can create I can create A2 size cards with 6x6 paper without any pattern paper scraps. What I will try to do though, and the reason that I've been pretty strategic about which of these that I picked, is I want to be able to use these A2 size card panels that come with the card kit. So rather than pulling in some extra cardstock, I'm going to use the cardstock that's available in the kit. And so my mats should be something that cuts pretty efficiently out of this size cardstock. And what I found is if I were to cut, because there are 4 pieces of each color in this kit. So I have, for example, 4 pieces of yellow cardstock. For every 4 pieces of cardstock from this kit, I can cut the mats that I need. So I've done some, to experiment. I can cut the mats that I need for 3 complete cards. And then there are some scraps left over. And we might figure out what to do with some of these scraps, but I'm not sure. I don't want to make this video super, super long. So I'm going to start by cutting some of my pattern paper for these no scrap templates. You don't need to worry too terribly much how to do this because it is included in the template. The template tells you exactly how. But there's a big caveat for this one. For template number 12, I'm gonna skip the circle because the circle is using a circle die, which is not included in the kit. And instead of that circle, I'm going to use all of the larger cut-aparts that are available in the kit. There are even some circular ones, and I've started to set those aside so that I kind of have an idea of how many larger ones I have to work with. So I'll just need to cut paper to 3 by 5 inches and 3 by 1 inches. I can cut 3 pieces of paper at one time. I could probably even do 4 because my paper trimmer is quite hefty. So let's do these 3. I want to do a mix of birthday cards and Easter cards or spring cards because I think that's just what this kit really lends itself to, and those are going to be useful cards for most people. I know there's plenty of people who just don't send Easter cards, so I think you can definitely make a lot of birthday, but I also encourage you just to make spring cards, or to, if you don't celebrate Easter, of course you wouldn't want to make Easter cards, but just to consider that while it might not be traditional to make cards for a particular holiday, so I cut that to 3 by 6. And now I have a 3 by 6 inch piece, and I'm cutting the 1 inch off the bottom to make a 3 by 5 and a 3 by 1. Even though you might not normally make cards for a holiday, consider doing it because it's fun. Whoever you send that card to is not going to think why would you give me an Easter card? They're going to be oh, that's cute and fun. And just going to be happy they have a card. So now 3 pieces of paper make enough for 6 cards. And I also, in my previous math, I cut the 3 papers with the other template. So that's 12, but I need more. I need 2 more. I need 1 paper for each one more. So let's do these cute little bunnies, and we'll do the template number 1, and it tells me to cut that to 3 by 6, cut it down to the 5 inch mark. So I need this 3 by 1. And then having these 5 inch long pieces is what's making this cardstock really efficient, because then I'm going to need 5 1/4 inch cardstock. So that is kind of how I picked my sketches for today is thought about things that need 5 1/4 mats. And I'll cut those down to 1 inch wide strips. And I'll keep going till I have 15 cards worth of paper cut out. Now, the thing that's a little bit odd for me is I'm making 2 cards with each piece of paper. So in order to get enough for 15 cards, I am gonna have a half a sheet, a 3x6 inch sheet left over, and that's what we'll revisit if we revisit the scraps. Okay, so I wanna show you how I'm gonna cut 3 pieces of the included cardstock to make the mats for these particular card sketches. And I wanna do that in case you wanna follow along exactly. I think that I can understand that not everyone wants to follow along the tutorial exactly. However, because this particular way of doing it will work for any of the new kits, so like say you have the January kit, but you found this video, you can still use this because it's gonna have the same number of cardstock panels, and you could cut down your cardstock to work for this if you had 8.5 by 11. Okay, so I need to cut enough for 3 cards from 4 pieces of paper, which means I'm gonna cut one of them to accommodate a strip card. So that's sketch number 1. And that means that I am going to need cardstock that's 5 1/4 inch long, and then each of the strips need to be 1 1/4 because it's 1/4 inch bigger than their 1 inch. Their 1 inch size. Sorry, I'm trying to like measure and talk at the same time. Okay, and all those measurements are right there on your card sketch, so you don't have to be like writing things down as I'm saying them. But you are gonna have to make sure that the number of cards that you cut for strips is equal to the number of pattern paper that you cut for strips. So you can cut the mats for 3 cards, but you need to know which 3 cards you're cutting it for. So if you need more of the larger panels or more of the strips, you are gonna have to keep track of that. I know that's a little bit of math and that's not for everyone. I will share my numbers and hope that that helps you. So then the other piece of paper, I need to cut to 3 1/4 by 5 1/4. And then that all just winds up being scraps for now. We might revisit them, and we have always ideas for using cardstock scraps. Also, I don't really feel bad about like just tossing or composting, in my case, this bit of scrap. But if that is a meaningful scrap to you, go ahead and use your scrap ideas on it. But I am willing to let that kind of scrap go personally. So I've cut enough for 2 larger cards and 1 strip card. And then I need 3 1/4 by 1 1/4 pieces, and I need 3 of those. So I've started by cutting it to 3 1/4 because each of the cards, both the strip card and the larger paneled card, so sketches 12 and 1, both have a 3 1/4 by 1 1/4 inch mat that they need. And so I can just cut a bunch of 1 1/4. Okay, so that actually will give me 4 1 1/4s. And I'm cutting it that way because I think that'll be really easy to use later on if and when we get to our scraps. Okay, I'm gonna put this in the blog post and the video description below, but just so you know what I did, I'm gonna make 7 cards with sketch 12, and I'm not gonna use the circle die cut. I'm gonna take 3 1/2 pieces of pattern paper and cut it to the directions for that sketch, and I'm gonna use 7 of the 20 cardstock panels and cut them to the 3 1/4 by 5 1/4 I need for that. Then I'm gonna make 8 cards with sketch 1, which means I'm gonna cut 4 pieces of pattern paper to that sketch's size and 8 cardstock panels to the 3 pieces of 1 by 5 1/2 that cardstock or that sketch needs. And then the extra 5 cardstock panels are all gonna be cut to the 3 1/4 by 1 1/4 bits that both sketches need. And so hopefully breaking it down like this will help you keep track, and I have done a lot of the like math part of it for you. And so what I'm gonna do is going forward, I'm gonna make sure that I don't get all confused with my pieces, and I'm gonna take my sketch and put it in this poly binder. And I'm gonna take all these little pieces, these pattern paper pieces that were cut for that sketch, and I'm gonna place them inside that poly binder, or poly pocket, I guess. That makes me, the toys, Polly Pockets. They were popular when I was little. Okay, all the cardstock panels. I need enough of the little cardstock panels to go with it, etc. So I'm gonna sort everything so that I don't get confused. Okay, so you can go to the crop if you want with just your printed sketches and maybe some organizer pockets and your card kit. And you should be, well, okay, you need the sketches, the note, the card kit, maybe some pockets for organizing, your trimmer, and maybe some adhesive, because again, I don't know if like the adhesive will last you the whole time, but you're probably bringing adhesive and a trimmer to any kind of retreat. But also you can bring it all to your dining room table or like on vacation or whatever. So, or camping, that's a fun way to do it. All right, so now we just kind of need to like sort out where we want each of our papers to go. And I do this ahead of time because if I start gluing things down, I could wind up like only having the goose paper left and the light blue paper left, and I don't love those two together, whereas like I think that it would go good on a lot of other ones. I kind of like the contrast there. I probably don't want the green on the green, so I'm just kind of sorting my papers, and then I can get to the work of gluing everything down. It looks like I have 2 of the yellow paper, and I'm not gonna make you sit through this entire process, but I just kind of want to show you what my thought process. I don't really like the blue with the green. Maybe I'll put it with the pink. Once you've decided like what colors you want to put them with, if you think you're not gonna be able to finish all of your cards right away, because like you're probably gonna go stop and talk to your friend, or you know, your kids are gonna need you, so you're gonna have to walk away from your project. I suggest taking a picture at this point so you remember which ones you like together and you don't have to go through that process again. And I recommend that in general. And if you're like working on a longer project, just stopping and taking pictures periodically so that when you return, you know what you were doing. You can also get zip top bags. You can also get zip top bags. Oh, this would be one more thing to take with you to a crop. And you could put, like, now that you've kind of made your decisions, take your card base and the things you're going to use for that card, put it all in one bag, and do that and bag up each of your projects. A lot of times you're not going to need to do that because this is going to be a really quick process if you're not stopping to film and jibber jabber the entire time. We're going to take a closer look at how I would assemble one of sketch 12. And as it turns out, there are things that you're just never going to know until you actually get started on a project. So I did try to add as much of the adhesive that came with the kit as possible, but I ran out. So I cut the, well, I didn't even cut the strips, I ripped them because that was faster than cutting the strips, but a lot slower than using my ATG. And then you see now I still have to peel all these backing sheets off, which I would not have to do if I had used a tape runner. So while it is really convenient to be able to get something like that in the kit and not have to bring anything additional, I could certainly see that some people would prefer the ease of whatever adhesive they are most used to. For those of you who would really like to use the adhesive from the kit and get the very best value, I do find that sort of pulling back the paper a little bit, so you're pulling both the backing strip and the paper away from each other, like kind of bending that paper, does tend to help, but I am still having a little bit of trouble in those areas where it's ripped. It might be easier if you cut it, but then that would take longer. So the other thing is, I thought when I looked at the kit, it seemed like there was a lot of birthday sayings and like spring sayings, but not actually quite as many as I thought. So I certainly made a lot of just kind of general hello cards, but also was able to get quite a few birthday cards. And I used a mixture of the stickers and the chipboard and the die cut shapes and all of that throughout all of my cards. So I picked this flat sticker to replace the circle in the sketch, and it says many happy returns of the day, which is a pretty fun old-fashioned way to say happy birthday. And then I made a bunch more birthday cards in that style. There are actually 6 of this style. One will be an Instagram reel, so I'm not showing that one just yet, but I was able to get like celebrate today, happy birthday, happy day, my friend, and then many happy returns. So quite a few birthday cards out of it. Now we're gonna look at sketch 1, and I've saved you the torture of watching me peel backing strips off of adhesive by doing that all ahead of time. And I should be using my mat better. My mat has, it's an Altenew mat, and it has like an A2 size card printed in the middle, and it kind of helps you to know where the center of things are. And I find that I need that quite often. So, if another thing that, if it's not obvious at this point, is you're going to, besides needing some extra adhesive in order to complete the 15 cards that I started, intended down, you're also going to need extra card bases because there are only 8 that come in the kit. I do rather imagine that most people who are getting these kits have some experience with card making and do have some adhesive and some cardstock on hand to make card bases. If you've never made your own card bases, I do have a video for that I will link in the video description for you to check out, and it just shows you how to make your own card bases from 8.5 by 11 cardstock. I don't know that it's the most efficient way, I just know that it's my way of doing it, and I make a lot of cards, so it certainly gets the job done at least. And then I have a die cut and a sticker to complete this card. I'm going to overlap the sentiment on top of that die cut, and then I'll show you some more, the other 6 cards that I made. These ones were the ones I focused a little bit more on a spring theme, so I had the Happy Easter and the Hello Spring, but then I had to move into some, here's another Hello Spring, some less specific sentiments like just a hello or just a little something, but it's still, I pulled in some of the more spring-like die cuts and characters. So let's revisit the scraps. I had this 3 by 6 inch piece of paper that was left over, and then I have these 3 1/4 by 1 1/4 pieces of cardstock. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut this into 1 inch strips, which should then pair nicely with this, and then we'll make a card from that. But on top of that, I have a lot of much smaller cardstock strips, and as I mentioned, I am generally okay. These ones are a little bigger, but I'm generally okay with recycling this amount or composting or whatever you safely dispose of them. But I actually decided instead of sharing in this video, I will make a whole nother video with 3 ways to use cardstock strips, because I've thought of some ways I'm going to use those up, but I'm not going to be incorporating the pattern paper. So that'll be a separate video to look out for. So unfortunately, it looks like I must have made a mistake and I didn't trim this one such that it has a 1/4 inch around, but the other 4 did. And they also all fit pretty nicely on a card. So this looks like a pretty good complete card. I made sure to, when I was cutting my paper, I kind of thought ahead, well, I might need a paper that matches all the different colors of cardstock. So that's what that was. And then for the last 2 remaining pieces, this one that technically has a smidge of blue around it, and this one that didn't have a mat, I'm just gonna put them inside another card. I'll probably find ones that it's going to coordinate with, like ones that have that dot paper already in them, and then just kind of call it a day on those last strips. Then we're going to need something decorative for here, and we're finished. So there's plenty left with this card kit. I've made a good start with these 16 cards, and I have no pattern paper scraps, and I'll have a little video showing you what I'm going to do with those cardstock scraps as well. I'll continue to be able to make more cards with this kit, but I really wanted to show you, if you kind of tried to limit yourself to only the contents of the kit, what you might be able to make. I did have to, unfortunately, pull in a little bit more adhesive and then the card bases, but those are pretty common supplies. If you like this video, here's another video where you can find more ideas for enjoying your crafty time and supplies. Let me know you like this video with the share to your crafty community, subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss the next template tutorial, and check the video description for product links. See you in the next video.